You asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Coming to you live with a Rick and Morty podcast update. Things happened, things changed, things stay the same, and we're here to talk to you about it here on another episode of Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast.
We're back, baby.
We're back.
We're
baby.
back.
Don't
Baby.
call. I'm not your baby. Don't call me your baby.
Maybe I wasn't talking to you, Brandon. Hello, everybody. I'm Travis.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brandon, and welcome to another episode of our podcast where we talk about Rick and Morty things. So real quick, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Travis,
Clean up the house. If you're new here, what a time to join the podcast. But you can follow us along on social media, unverified over at Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/Rick and Morty Podcast. On Instagram, Rick and Morty Podcast. You can send us an email with your thoughts or questions at rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. We're over on the subreddits, the official Rick and Morty subreddit, rickandmorty.reddit.com. Also, we have our own subreddit, rickandmortypodcast.reddit.com. And then you can check out our website, rickandmortypod.com, for all of our episodes and additional content for this podcast. We are currently streaming live. That's right. It is a live podcast over at twitch.tv/apathetic enthusiasm. If you missed the live streams, if you're not following us there, you can still catch video versions of the podcast over on YouTube, youtube.com/apathetic enthusiasm. Like, subscribe, do all the things you do over on YouTube. Finally, a big thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/apathetic enthusiasm. Everybody that is continuing to support us as we work through our various podcast machinations. I guess I don't know what we're doing over there.
It's a good word.
But we are providing some additional updates for the patrons over there about some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes in developing a new show, which we will get to a little bit later in this podcast. But that's pretty much it. That's where you can find us on the internet. Thank you so much for tuning in and continuing to tune in to this podcast. Brandon, how the heck are you?
You know, I'm not doing too bad, Travis.
I'm doing too good myself.
I'm here. I went snowboarding with my younger brother last week.
That's right.
Up in Mountain High, out past Palm.
Rocky Mountain High.
And like I'm not a great snowboarder by any stretch, and I'm 40, which means that like every fall is exacerbated.
Your bones are brittle. Were you
and,
out there shredding?
Oh,
is that what they do? Yeah, I don't.
It was fun. It was fun going with, because my brother's not an expert snowboarder either, so it was nice to go with somebody of equal skill level.
Okay.
'Cause usually when I go with people who are like, yeah, oh my god, let's go on the steepest one right away, and I'm like,
double black diamond, and you're like,
on my
what
hat.
about the bunny hill?
Just I'm going too fast, right? So that was fun. I did fall. Like we went down like one of the hills, one of the steeper hills, and we're like, let's practice falling. That's what we want to do, like, because like,
let's just get it out of the way. That way we're not surprised by it when it happens later.
Yeah, like let's practice falling so we're not landing on our wrists or doing anything like that, right? And in that run, that's when I fell, knowing don't brace yourself with your wrist. And I fell and I ate shit and I braced myself with my wrist. So like accident, like just that whatever. So my wrist is kind of jacked up a little bit, and I have a bruise on the back of my hand. So
ooh. Just one of those old man things now.
My wrist hurts, but I have a bruise on the back of my hand. Who knows? You
just have achy old bones and bruises that show up and stay there for weeks at a time now.
Yeah. You got the shrivelly skin with like cuts that are like, when did I get that cut?
I'm gonna be like really transparent and no ill will towards this individual, but there's a guy that I work with who is significantly older than me, and I sit next to him in meetings all the time, and I notice on his hands, like the back of his hands, where he'll have like little cuts and scrapes and stuff, and I'm just like, what is he doing to get all that, like, all of that damage, right? And then the other day, I like had like these like scrapes on the back of my hand, and I was like, where are those from? I'm like, oh gosh, it's happening.
It's happening.
I'm becoming the old guy. Anyway, as we slowly shuffle towards our imminent demise, what better way to celebrate that than covering some semi-pertinent news?
Semi-pertinent news. I don't have anything.
We did not make music.
No.
Yeah, semi-pertinent news. I mean, there's news to discuss, but I think we're going to discuss a lot of that very pertinent news in the main thing. So,
The main thing.
not yet. That was this podcast's shortest semi-pertinent news ever. There was a little bit of pertinent news, and we've talked about this movie ever since the writer was hired on to take on this film. That's right, Ant-Man. Is it Ant-Man and the Wasp? Or it's just Ant-Man Quantumania.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. It just hit theaters this last weekend. The largest box office weekend of the Ant-Man trilogy. And very mixed reviews if you're a fan of Rotten Tomatoes. I don't even think it's at 50% out there in terms of critics' response. I think the fan response might be a little bit higher, but
yeah, the fan response is in the high 70s, maybe 80s.
Okay. Some mixed reviews. We both went and saw the movie. Gotta see what old Jeff Loveness is up to, right? And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was a good Ant-Man movie. Is it the best Marvel movie I've seen? Maybe not. Is any Marvel movie like the best movie I've ever seen? Maybe not. But did I have fun in the theater? Did I love seeing Paul Rudd out there scrapping it with MODOK? Of course I did.
Yeah, of course
I did.
Of course he did. It was good. It felt very Rick and Morty ish at times, and so the lighting on my camera just shifted randomly.
Like a ceiling tile to fall on your head or something.
But it was good. It had those aspects to it, especially because it's talking about like the quantum verse and like a multiverse type stuff with Kang the Conqueror in there. So and there was a couple like very like with different like alien characters that like they seem like it would be a live action Rick and Morty.
There are a couple characters in particular that I was like, this could be a Rick and Morty character. If it was animated and on Adult Swim, this would be a Rick and Morty character. Absolutely. Right. But we won't spoil anything for the people that haven't watched the movie yet and plan on seeing it. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. If you're a Marvel fan, odds are you will like it just because you're bought into the entire ecosystem. I don't know. I thought it was good. I think I always underrate Ant-Man as a superhero. I'm always like, oh, he controls ants and he gets tiny, but I forget about the giant man side of things, which is pretty overpowered as well. So, he really holds his own in the movie, and I think it was good.
Yeah. So check it out or don't. It'll be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it'll eventually. You'll see it with all the rest of the Kangs. Any other semi-pertinent news, Brandon?
The only other semi-pertinent news here is because we don't have a Dan Harmon social media minute right now. There was a series of posts about Schraub getting married, and I didn't put the 11 years ago thing on there. You put the 11 years ago thing on there.
Yeah, and a little inside baseball for all the podcast listeners. You just put Rob Schraub got married in the social media minute. So I did my due diligence and headed over to Rob Schraub's Instagram because obviously, like, I gotta check this out for myself. And sure enough, the most recent post by Rob Schraub is the save the date for his wedding in 2011. That's right. The caption is 7 years as girlfriend and boyfriend, 11 years married, and so blessed and happy to be partners with such a perfect, badass, sexy motherfucker. Love you forever, Katums. So, yeah, Rob Schraub got married
Sure did.
11 years ago.
So congratulations.
Congrats, Rob and Katums. Rob and Kate, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your social media minute, I guess. If you're not following Dan Harmon, you can. If you're not following Rob Schraub, he is at Rob Schraub. That's ROBSCHRAB. It's just like it sounds, I guess. Yeah, so you could follow him over on Instagram as well. And that's pretty much gonna do it for semi-pertinent news. If you see anything that is semi-pertinent that you think we should cover on a future episode, feel free to drop us an email, send us a text. Carrier pigeons are fine. Just let us know what you think. And when we come back, we will get into everybody's favorite part of the show, the main thing.
Okay.
Mark the spot.
I'm putting a marker there. Okay. And so our video viewers, that's so I can put.
Yeah, we're trying an advertising thing. Maybe I should edit this too.
Yeah, I guess you can. You can if you
or
want.
not. Bonus content for the video viewers. All right. So should I do an intro back into it, or do you just want to start singing?
No, I'll just start singing.
Okay.
Did you say the main thing already?
Yeah, it's the main thing.
A bookity book. A bookity book. A bookity book. It's the main thing. Back in your house.
Sell out with me. Yeah.
The main thing is back in your house. All right. Well, welcome to the main thing. We don't have a show, a new episode to talk about. We don't have any there's an anime that's going to come out eventually. We'll talk about that, but not today. And eventually season 7 will be here and we'll talk about those episodes. But for today, what we wanted to do was we wanted to give a follow-up to our last episode that we did, where all the news about Roiland had just come out, and we were it was about a week or two where we were just trying to decide what we wanted to do, like what was the path forward. There hadn't been any news that had come out yet following up, like, okay, well, are they going to stop the show? What's going to happen?
Very speculative episode of Interdimensional RSS.
Yes, very much so. And so we recorded that episode on a Monday, and as is, Adult Swim's way, they're like
the classic who done it. I don't know.
We know Brandon and Travis are going to release a new episode, and so let's go ahead and get ahead of them and release some news to make it so that they're outdated. So that after we released our episode, then the news came out that Roiland was being taken off of Rick and Morty. And then shortly thereafter, Hulu came and did his things for Solar Opposites and Koala Man.
Yep.
And so that is when I then went after the fact, recorded just a real quick intro saying like, hey, this is all that stuff came out later. Here's what we were talking about. Well, so that was last month, the middle of January, late January. And since then we've had people talk to us personally, friends, family, like, so what's happening? Are you quitting the show? I've had some friends listen to our last episode and be like, so you guys are done? You guys are done? And so we wanted to talk about kind of the things that have shifted and changed for us, and just give that update essentially for where we are with the show, the podcast, and the show moving forward.
Yeah, and I think when we recorded our last episode, there was still very little, both officially and unofficially, from the network in terms, or anyone really associated with the show, sharing their thoughts or sharing like any kind of official position from Adult Swim or things like that. And again, a lot of the creators like Dan Harmon has been completely absent from Instagram for 6 weeks now. So he's not really out there saying anything. A lot of people associated at the top of the show are being pretty quiet, but there has been a lot more information that has come out. I would point to this Hollywood Reporter article, which is linked in the show notes, which really does a good job of breaking down everything that's happened. It gives some perspective about Justin Roiland's association with the show, how his participation with the show has really changed over the last few years. And I think articles like that, information like that, and then the conversations that we've had with some folks that we know that work on the show have really helped us to kind of process all of it and sort of adjust our perspective in terms of is it something we want to completely not be associated with Rick and Morty because Justin Roiland's name was on it, or is it something that we can still pay tribute to and podcast about and celebrate, because just because one person's name on it doesn't discredit all of the other names and all of the other people that, from the writer's room to the creative team and all of the artists that pour so much into this show that we have honestly celebrated from the beginning. We've had tons of people on this show with interviews, none of those people being in the created by block on the credits, right? So, I think that's really helped for us to kind of, I don't know, move forward a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know if if you're asking for my confirmation. Yes, Travis. You're absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always only talking to you as if no one is ever listening to this show.
That's good. That's a good strategy. I think that's the thing. Like when in our last episode, with having to speculate on what was going on, we didn't know about what was going to happen with the voices, right? We kind of had that conversation. And in the press announcement for Adult Swim, it was like the cast and crew are hard at work on season 7, and they're going to continue working on season 7. And and we had maybe some mixed feelings still, like, I mean, what does that actually mean? And okay, I'll take a step back and talk about just some of the Hollywood Reporter stuff.
Sure.
Just since it's at the top of our show notes there. We had heard over the years some of these kind of like murmurs that the Hollywood Reporter article talks about, with Roiland not really being in the writer's room since season 3-ish, like doing a voice, but not necessarily being part of the creative team anymore. We talked a little bit about that too, about like the promotional stuff. Like we ended up being absent from a lot of the promotional stuff. It didn't feel like he even acknowledged the show. He was doing his NFT shit and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Moving on to Solar Opposites, Squanch Games, all of those sorts of things, other projects. Yeah.
Like the not being on speaking terms with Harmon type stuff. And so seeing that stuff, confirming some murmurs that we'd pieced together over the years, and being like, okay, well, he is just the voice of these characters, but he is not who is writing it. He's not who's drawing it or animating it. He's not in those processes anymore. And we have always been about the fans being fans ourselves. We've always been about the people behind the show. I think that's one of our strengths here, is that we care so much about not just the voice actors, although Chris Parnell, Star Talk, we love you, and come back on the show anytime. But also like storyboard animators and the in-betweeners and
Yes.
all that good stuff in the pipeline.
Character creators or
Right.
Yeah, everybody.
And we had a conversation with somebody who works on the show. We're not going to say their names,
Nope.
but that conversation really shifted how we felt about it. Like it really brought us back into it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quote them. I'm not going to attribute it to them. So
Yeah.
if they're listening, I didn't. You heard me. I didn't attribute it to you. But they said, "Remember, we are the show, not Justin. Both crew and fans. As a crew, we're hoping to make a positive shift in the show. I hope you continue with your podcast." There's more to it, but that was like distilled the gist of it. And them saying that was like, oh fuck, no, yeah, you're right.
And for transparency, you are typically chatting this, and this wasn't like a one-off conversation. This is an individual that we chat with long term. You usually are interacting with them, and then I'm just like creeping on the DMs because we have a shared account. But yeah, like after that conversation, I think I reached out to you and was just like, wow, that really changes my perspective. That hearing them say that makes me a little more open to the idea of, yeah, let's keep celebrating the hard work of a lot of very talented people, even if the main characters' voices sound a little bit different, or even if if the show can move on past this, maybe we can too. So that's what we want to focus on. We want to focus on all of the creative folks that are going to continue to make season 7 and beyond. Is the show going to be a little bit different? Is it? Maybe, but in a lot of ways that matters, I don't think it will be, right? I mean, we've had Scott Martyr on this show a couple of times now, and he has been key in that writer's room as an executive producer, working with Dan and the rest of the writers to take the show in the direction that it's currently moving in. And I don't think any of that is going to change. I think it's going to keep going. Grumpy Shih Tzu, thanks for the sub on Twitch, by the way. But yeah, and so I think, I don't know. I think there's a lot that could continue to be great about the show, and I think with the people that are working on it, it will be, because I mean, the last few seasons, outside of voice acting, Justin really hasn't been involved. And I think that was something was really eye-opening to me, because we're over on the subreddit a lot. And the response from a lot of fans when this news came out was, the show's over. The show's never going to be the same. How can you take Justin Roiland out of the show and still have it be Rick and Morty? And to those people, I say, you should listen to this podcast more, because I think we definitely benefit from having the perspective of how many people it takes to make Rick and Morty, and that the show is still going to be what it is without Justin. And his limited involvement means I think the impact is going to be pretty small.
Yeah. Over like the last month or so, in a lot of those threads, and there have been folks that have been like, they've taken him out of it. What's going to happen to the creative heart of the show?
Yeah.
And the thing is a lot of folks have then come back and been like, he's credited with like 5 episodes, and like the reports said like he hasn't even been in there for since season 3 for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And some people will then be like, well, that explains the shift and why it's shitty now. And to that I say, like, why are you in a subreddit for the show this long after it?
Yeah, like 5 years after, like, yeah.
But like I will say that like season 5 wasn't my favorite season. Going into season 6, like I there's that upward trend, and I think part of that was there were some shifts around the office with
Sure.
some tragic deaths. And then Scott coming in there kind of mid at the end of season 4. He's coming in there, he's learning, he has to figure out processes, he has to figure out people, and they have to build stories, and that takes a long time. And so I think through season 6 we've seen an upward trend of storytelling and character building, and that wasn't Roiland. So
Yeah.
anyway, so we'll just kind of, I think that's good enough on that.
So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for Interdimensional RSS? The show is still here. We are still here. Interdimensional RSS will continue to cover all of the new seasons of Rick and Morty, obviously, as well as if there are any other significant news or events or other things having to do with the show. We want to be a part of that. We want to celebrate the creative team over at Adult Swim and at the animation studios, and we want to, if there's Adult Swim Fest, things like that, I'm sure we will cover it. But the reality is, Interdimensional RSS has been part of our larger, I guess, podcast network since its inception, right? You hear it now thanks to that tag at the beginning. This is a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm, right? So Apathetic Enthusiasm, that encompasses all of our podcast efforts, to include Interdimensional RSS, our original podcast, Apathetic Enthusiasm, as well as a few other shows. You want to talk about bringing back Submitted for Your Approval a little bit?
Yeah. One of my favorite shows of all time is The Twilight Zone, and way back when we started Apathetic Enthusiasm, I was like, I want to do another podcast, but I want to talk about The Twilight Zone. And so Submitted for Your Approval, Twilight Zone podcast is what came out of that. And I went very strong on the first season of the show, the original series. So 1959 to 1964, 156 episodes. This first season, I'm like, yeah, go strong. Like every week, new episode with a new guest to talk about another episode of the show. When we got into season 2, things slowed down a lot because I'm like, God, that was a lot of work. And then I took a hiatus, and then eventually started back in season 3, got midway through season 3, and then I stopped for 2 years for a pandemic and a Twilight Zone reboot by Jordan Peele. And so now, like, okay, all of the stuff that has happened in like the last month has been like, you know what, it's time to flex that creative muscle again, start getting into doing more producing, not just having to wait for Rick and Morty podcast or AE, or like just expanding things again. So getting back into that, and I released an episode. I recorded another episode. I have another couple in the queue, one with you pretty soon.
That's right. You get to listen to me on another podcast. Ha
So Submitted for Your Approval, the Twilight Zone podcast. If you care about the original Rod Serling series, a lot of folks may not, but there's so much in pop culture that has drawn from that series that you may not even realize that it was drawn from that series. Which I think is cool. And a lot of those the topics and the themes are very prescient. So anyway, so there's that.
And speaking of things that are drawn from history, you like? Sorry,
I liked it. It was
good. We are working through the process of developing a brand new podcast for this network. That being an animated history podcast. We are very close on rubber stamping the name of that podcast, as well as coming up with all of the other details about what that show will be, the topics that we'd like to cover. We have discovered through years of friendship that one area that we both have a lot of interest in is animation and the history of animation. So we are currently in the works of developing a show. If you like Rick and Morty and you like the animation of Rick and Morty, this show may be appealing to you to look back at just the history of animation. We're gonna look at just, I mean, a very broad look at animation. So stay tuned for that. More information to follow. If you're following us on any of the like Apathetic Enthusiasm socials and things like that, you should get news from that. And like we mentioned earlier, if you are on our Patreon, patreon.com/apathetic enthusiasm, we're sharing additional notes, some of our planning boards and things like that. So if you want more details, you can head right over to that website. All right.
And now that is going to be so fun and so cool for us to do, because it's a little bit of a departure from how we've covered like this show, how I've covered the Twilight Zone, how we've covered movies and TV shows on Apathetic Enthusiasm. Well, we're gonna like try to look a little bit deeper, try to get like insights from folks from the industry. Like
That's right.
I'm not an animator. I don't come from an anime family, but I know people who are in the other room who are related to them.
You're animation adjacent.
Animation adjacent. I married into it. And so like for example, I just last week I went to a presentation at Pasadena College of Design or something like that, where an animator, Bob Kurtz, spoke. He has been around a long time, worked on Pink Panther way back in the day. The Dino DNA sequence from Jurassic Park, like his company, Kurtz and Friends, they did that. And so like already like taking notes from that and like from a historical context, being like, all right, yeah, how can we work this into a new podcast? And also getting his phone number. He's almost 90. I can't give it out. I was told that if I give it out, then I'm shunned.
Then you're unprofessional.
Damn it. Dang. I was gonna pass it out to our patrons over at patreon.com.
Give them a call, nights and weekends. Anyway, yeah, so lots more to come from us. And again, we appreciate everybody's support throughout all of this and as we develop these additional podcasts going into 2023. But we would be fools if we were to end an interdimensional RSS without some listener suggestions and short outs, and boy, are there a few of them. Big thanks to everybody who has reached out to us throughout this entire couple of months. Any that stand out to you, Brandon?
Yeah. So throwing this out there to Schmelzy on Twitter, offering a Screen Rant article about the in-universe. There already being an in-universe explanation for voice changing for Rick and Morty.
Sure.
And yeah, basically, the multiverse. So thank you for giving us that article. And also JD, I don't want to mess up your. I'll spell it.
Seigel.
J Delta SEIGLIE. I don't want to butcher your name, man. So just throwing it out there. But he thanked us for weighing in on our last episode, and also offered the second season of Arcane going to come out, the League of Legends show, and a couple other things that we might be able to cover moving forward if we move on from this. Which, by the way, those are animation, so those would fall within our purview for the new podcast.
That's right.
So thank you for reaching out to us on that. Got a few emails, Travis.
Richard Rawlings sent an email about Sean Kelly's voice. Sean Kelly, that's the individual famous on social media, I think, for doing impersonations, right, of the existing like Justin Roiland versions of Rick and Morty. So there was a lot of support and suggestions over on the subreddit that they should just hire him, right? as because he does the voices really well. I don't know personally if they should just have another person do the same voices or whether they should change. Like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what my feeling would be.
Yeah.
In both regards, I think it's just gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird either way. But
it will be. You're right. I was thinking about that too. Like it's an opportunity to be like, all right, well, now let's get 2 different people to do the voices. You know, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
split the diff. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could hire 2 people.
we talked about um when we talked to Chris and Sarah, you know, they're not necessarily saying these lines to each other in the same room, right? So,
Oh yeah.
um, so it doesn't matter if there's 2. I don't know.
Would it speed up production? Having 2 people work on
I don't know.
maybe it'd be faster. I don't know.
This would have been something I might have asked before. Like, how do you actually, like, what is the process of you interacting with yourself in the vocal booth? Like, is it playing back in the headphones? Like, does he have to record all of them? It's just something I want to know. Just something I want to know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
The world may never know. What else do we got? I don't think I saw these emails.
no, you did. You totally did. But one look it up. Look up body count 611.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm back.
Mid podcast, Brandon just starts walking away.
Yeah, let me. I'll pull up the email. So these emails were funny, and this is why I wanna we would have brought them
okay.
up.
All right.
Yeah. But okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you ready for it? Okay. So the first one is from Body Count 611, and the subject title is "You Dirty Slut Dragons," and it's a long email, and I appreciate it. It starts with, "You guys are great. Been a Ram fan from day one. Ram everything. Cars Ram themed. Everything. Super. The point is, super fan of Ram." Then the second part is giving us shit because we give shit to the Slut Dragon episode.
Yeah.
And just it's all about how
I have
much
played all of your podcasts on Spotify. Thank you for specifying your podcatcher of choosing. The deep cuts are done. Great job, you guys, and keep my Ram Jones at bay. How dare you guys say the Dragon episode was trash? They love that one.
it keeps going back and forth between like love the show type stuff, but you're wrong about the Slut Dragon.
Yeah.
Example, it's been fun knowing how the show plays out and going back and playing your deep cuts and hear you guys guessing. But yeah, bad form, shame on the slut shaming of that episode, just because it's one of my favorites, and I quote it regularly. Still a fan, just to disagree with you guys on that episode and the snake one following it. Anyway,
yeah, and then the side note, a follow-up email. That's just oof. Side note. Banjo music for the main thing by Brandon was by far the best. Bring back the banjo. Hashtag Banjos Lives Matter. Rickest Unity, aka Body Count 611.
yeah.
So you heard it, Brandon. You got to get that banjo. You gotta banjo it up.
Body Count 611. I want to confirm and assure you that today, when I went to go pick up my kid from school, I wait in the car line for like 40 minutes
to be a millennial parent.
And guess what I did? I brought my banjo with the intent to write some music for you.
You're that dad. You like got your windows open on a beautiful like 76-degree day in Los Angeles, and you're just like, back it dank dank dank, back it down.
Shut up! Stop playing a banjo!
People are throwing pine cones at your car because I just assume there's pine cones around.
We're trying to teach school here. Anyway, thanks for those emails. Body Count 611. And the last thing we have is we have a review actually from December. It's from Wee Bum Bum, and it's
Wee Bum Bum.
It's a UK iTunes / Apple Podcast review, which is
international with this,
which is why we probably missed it. But it's a 5-star review. It's one of the rare 5-star reviews we get. It's not that rare. But anyways, I only started listening a few weeks back to help me get around some of the more denser episodes. These guys do it perfect, covering all things Rick and Morty and even some comic book backstory. They have good chemistry, they're non-biased, and sound like a pair of nice fellows. Great content.
Look at us, a couple of nice fellows.
Well, adjust my tie here.
just our nondescript black T-shirts.
Of all of that review, sound like a pair of nice fellows. Like that part speaks to me, and that part makes me happy. And I'm like not even joking about that. The fact that we sound like a pair of nice fellows.
We got them all fooled. Ha ha ha. I like the part where we help people get around some of the more denser episodes. Just a couple of dense fellows. That's us.
Oh, get around the dent.
Get around. Oh, yes. Well, thank you, Wee Wee Bum Bum. Very much appreciate that review. And if you want to drop us a note, send us a comment. You can obviously do that at all of those social media links that we talked about at the beginning. But if you are listening, maybe you're a new listener, you're here for the first time, or you've only been listening for a little while, feel free to leave a review, rate, and review the podcast on your podcatcher of choosing. And it really helps other people find the show, and it really helps us out. So thanks to everybody that leaves a review, and thanks for considering to do that. Peace Among Ricks getting here right at the end. Perfect timing. It'll be available on podcatchers anywhere. Bottom line, we're glad to be back. We're glad that we're here. When the next episode will be, who knows? But definitely follow us on all those social media things so that you can catch the next episode.
He's over at Jugglemino. I'm at Barnyard Cruise. So
right.
Shoot us.
Not giving Elon my money though. It's not happening.
Not doing it. But he does think that Royland's the heart of the show. So maybe we should leave Twitter now. No.
That's a different podcast. Anyway, that's it for this show. Thank you for listening. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.